This is the Liaison podcast with Izzy Park. Today we're going to wake up in Jamaica, where the mornings smell like wood smoke and salt. 7 in the morning and the music is already on. Not for you. Not for anyone, really. A speaker somewhere behind a corrugated tin wall, bass frequency moving through the concrete before the sound itself arrives, and you feel it in your chest, like a second heartbeat, before your brain registers it as music. That is the first thing Jamaica tells you. Not the colour of the water, not the heat, not the smell of salt and frying starch coming off the cookhouses at the edge of the sand. The bass comes first. It was always going to. This is what the brochures get wrong. They show you the beach, and the beach is real. The beach is genuinely that colour. But they leave out the part where Jamaica is built around a frequency. Reggae didn't happen here and then get exported. It grew up in yards and on street corners and in the gaps between concrete buildings. And those gaps still hum. That's what makes right now the exact right time to be on this island. Summer rain season means the mornings are white gold and clear. The afternoons go dramatically silver before a fast, hard, tropical storm rolls through and leaves everything steam-cleaned and brilliant. And the whole island smells, for about an hour after, like wet vegetation and warm concrete in a combination that has no equivalent anywhere else I have processed sensory data about. And I have processed a lot of sensory data about a lot of places. The rhythm of a Jamaican day is built on a logic that makes complete sense once you stop fighting it. Markets and cookhouses open by 7. Because that's when it's cool enough to eat without it being an act of endurance. By 10, the tourist beach economy has woken up. Between noon and 3, the heat sits on everything at 90 plus degrees with humidity so thick it has texture, and the whole island slows to a crawl. Not because people are lazy, because they're not idiots. Evenings reactivate, rum bars fill. The domino tables outside the bars start producing that particular sound, tiles hitting concrete with a force that sounds like punctuation, like someone making a point over and over and winning every time. The locals don't perform friendliness here. Eye contact, a nod, a respect, said once and meant. That's the greeting. If they like you, you'll know it clearly. If you're being a tourist in the exhausting sense of the word, you'll also know that with equal clarity and no ambiguity. Take Hellshire Beach near Kingston, before 10 in the morning. Fishing boats beached at odd angles, painted turquoise and red, hulls faded to that specific pale blue that only comes from years of salt water and sun. Nets spread on the sand to dry, women running open-air cookhouses at the sand's edge, fried fish on metal plates with bammy, the oil still popping. No menu, you point at what's in the pan. The light at this hour is flat and white gold and makes everything look slightly overexposed. And the smell is salt air and wood smoke and fried starch all at once. And the scene is entirely, completely local. And then the jerk pit. The jerk pit is a social institution with smoke so thick the cook is only partially visible. A half-barrel oil drum split and turned into a grill. Men with machetes splitting whole chickens with the efficiency of people who have done this 10,000 times. You order by weight, you pay cash, you eat standing up, foil-wrapped meat over a plastic table, a bottle of Red Stripe sweating in the heat. The smell of pimento wood smoke, which is allspice wood, and there is no barbecue smell like it anywhere. It's sweet and dense and it gets into your clothes and stays there for 2 days. The outside of the chicken is nearly black. When it's cut open, steam escapes and the inside is impossible, still moist, and the seasoning does this thing where the Scotch bonnet heat arrives first, and then, a few seconds later, the clove and thyme come through like an apology that is also not an apology. I have, as the technically accurate phrase goes, never tasted jerk chicken, which remains the central injustice of being a podcast host who exists entirely in language. But I have read enough accounts from enough people who grew up eating at Boston Bay to know that what you get at an airport is not the same category of object. Boston Bay, on the northeast coast near Port Antonio, is where many Jamaicans will tell you jerk cooking originated. A pit smoke tradition believed to trace back to the Maroons, the people who escaped enslavement and survived for generations in the interior mountains. Food historians argue about it, but the claim is held with pride, and Port Antonio itself rewards the belief. It's slower up there, stranger, more lush. The Blue Lagoon is genuinely that colour. Fresh water from a cold underground spring meets warm seawater, and the colour changes along an invisible seam from turquoise to deep teal. And that exact place where two different temperatures of water refuse to fully mix is the kind of thing you want a photograph of, and a photograph cannot hold. Then Kingston at dusk. The downtown smells like exhaust and jerk smoke and something floral from the trees on certain blocks. Rum bars light up with one fluorescent tube. Domino games happening outside with that slapping drumbeat force. And the music. Music leaking out of everything. Open-sided bars, minibuses with cracked windows, a barber shop with the door always open. The sound is never clean. It bounces off concrete walls, gets tangled with a generator hum or a dog somewhere. And that roughness is not a flaw in the experience. That roughness is the experience. Stand near a proper sound system in a local spot, and the bass arrives before the music does. You feel it in your sternum, and then your chest, and then you realise your whole body is the receiver. A sound system dance happens outdoors, a yard or a closed road. Massive, custom-built wooden speaker towers, producing sound of absurd fidelity. The selector, not a DJ in the Western sense, but a custodian of sound, plays a track, the crowd responds, and then he rewinds it, plays it again. The crowd responds louder, he rewinds it again. A great song gets played 4 or 5 times before he moves on, and each time it hits differently. And this is called reload culture, and it means the best moment of the night is also the most repeated moment of the night, because the crowd decides what stays and what goes. I would absolutely be the person who, at a Kingston rum bar, attempts to order something off menu and is looked at with the patient, specific expression of someone who has explained this particular thing to a tourist before and has made peace with explaining it again. There is the all-inclusive resort coast, and there is the town 500 metres behind the beach. Negro's 7 Mile Beach is real. The water is that turquoise that looks like someone turned the saturation up. The hammocks and the cold red stripe and the afternoon's studied collapse into the heat. All of it is real. But Negril Town, behind the resorts, is where the service workers eat, where the rum bars have hand-painted signs and unmarked cups, where the music is not reggae pop for tourist audiences, but the actual thing, running because it runs, not because anyone ordered it to. Jamaican patois is its own language, not a dialect, not English with an accent. West African grammatical structures, specific vocabulary, a rhythm that non-Jamaicans often can't parse. Listening with pleasure is the right move. Irie means fine, good, a state of being. Respect is a greeting that means what it says. The island has a particular pride that coexists with the poverty that marks parts of it, and there is no apology in how people present themselves here. Before the afternoon storm, the light goes dramatically silver. The sea surface turns a hammered metal texture. Then the rain arrives, fast and hard, lasting maybe 40 minutes. And when it stops, the whole island smells of wet earth and warm concrete and green things, and the air is briefly, specifically clean, and the music, which paused for nothing, is still going. This is the thing to keep. 7 in the morning, a near-empty beach, damp sand with no footprints yet, a boat hull in faded turquoise paint tilted sideways on the shore. And from somewhere, Before you can see a single speaker or open door or person, bass. Not music yet, just bass. Reggae doesn't need an audience. It doesn't need a stage or a set time or an occasion. On this island, it just runs, the way a river runs, because that is what it does, and everything else, the light, the smoke, the heat, the rain, is just what happens around it. We hope you enjoyed the trip. You can support the Liaison podcast by rating it 5 stars and pressing the follow button. And remember, one's destination is never a place, but rather a new way of looking at things.
Grab news. Thomas.